All right, so get ready because by popular demand, we are diving deep into all this drama with Malaika Arora and Arjun Kapoor.
Oh yeah, things are eating up.
Yeah, so many people have asked for this deep dive. We've got cryptic Instagram posts and public statements and just a ton of speculation around this couple.
Well, it's definitely a story that's gotten everyone's attention lately, that's for sure.
Absolutely. And we're here to figure out what's really going on, beyond just the headlines.
Yeah, get past all the noise.
Exactly. So to do that, we've got this recent article from BollywoodShotties.com, basically the go-to source for all things Bollywood romance.
Always keeping up with the latest.
Are Malaika and Arjun really over for good this time, or is this just another chapter in their, complicated love story?
Let's jump in and see what we can figure out.
Okay, so first things first, let's talk about Arjun Kapoor's recent statement at that Diwali party.
Oh yeah, that was a big one.
Right. The article quotes him saying directly, quote, Abhi single hoon main relax. Yeah. And he even directly addressed the crowd's playful teasing, making it clear that they shouldn't read too much into him being there.
That's pretty bold to say that publicly, especially after, months and months of breakup rumors.
I know, right?
It seems like he's really taking control of the narrative by choosing to just come right out and say it.
Yeah, it's almost like he's drawing a line and saying, this is the truth, stop speculating.
Yeah, it's like he's reclaiming his own story in a way.
Definitely makes you wonder what prompted such a decisive statement, though,
Well, think about it. Celebrities are under so much pressure when it comes to their personal lives.
That's true.
So this could be his way of protecting himself and his image.
Managing how people see him.
Exactly. And now here's where things get even more interesting.
Ooh, tell me.
Shortly after this, big statement, Malaika posts this really cryptic message on her Instagram.
Oh, yeah, the one about removing toxic people from her life.
That's the one. And the timing is just so
He
suspicious.
feels like a direct response to Arjun, right?
It really does. And the language is so strong, too, calling people toxic.
Right.
So is she hinting at some issue with Arjun? Or is this just, a broader statement about, moving on from any negativity in her life?
Yeah.
It's really hard to know for sure, but the timing definitely raises some eyebrows.
No, for sure. It adds fuel to the fire.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, so for anyone who might not be totally up to speed on this whole Bollywood romance, let's back up a bit and give some context.
Right, let's set the scene.
So Malaika and Arjun started dating back in 2018, and from the beginning, their relationship got a lot of attention.
It did. I mean, there's a noticeable age gap between them, which unfortunately always seems to get people talking.
It's true. It's like people can't just let them be happy.
Right. Like societal expectations and biases play such a big role in how we view relationships, especially in the public eye.
So true.
Yeah.
But despite all of that scrutiny, they really did seem happy together. I mean,
Yeah.
you see all these photos of them at events and on vacations, and they look totally smitten.
Yeah. They seem to defy the expectations and embrace their happiness.
And more importantly, they seem to really be there for each other, supportive.
Absolutely. The article even points out how supportive Arjun was when Malaika's father passed away.
Oh, yeah.
He was like a pillar of strength for her during that time.
That's what makes this whole thing so confusing. If they had such a strong bond, what could have caused this rift?
Right. Like what happened?
Well, I mean, relationships are always complicated, right? Even when you're not a celebrity.
So true. You never really know what's going on behind closed doors.
No, you don't. So it's possible that a bunch of things contributed to this, both personal and external things.
Maybe things just changed for them. People grow and circumstances change.
It happens.
It does, and we might never really know all the details.
Yeah.
It's their private life.
Right. So, okay, on one hand, we have Arjun publicly saying he's single.
Loud and clear.
And on the other, we have this cryptic post from Malaika that suggests maybe there's more to the story.
Like, is she saying something without directly saying it?
It's like a puzzle with missing pieces, and we're the audience trying to figure out how they all fit together.
It's like they're giving us these clues.
Right. Like, are they trying to reconcile privately but maintain a certain image publicly? Is that why we're getting these mixed messages?
That's a possibility. Or maybe there was some big misunderstanding that we don't know about.
Oh, yeah. Communication is so key.
It is. And remember, what we see in the media and on social media is just a tiny fraction of their lives.
A curated version.
Exactly.
Mhm.
It's a good reminder that we don't really have the full picture and we shouldn't jump to conclusions.
That's easier said than done, though, right?
It is, because it's human nature to be curious,
Yeah.
especially about these glamorous lives.
That's true. It's hard not to get caught up in the speculation.
I know, I get it, but we have to remember to be respectful of their privacy too.
For sure. Okay, so What do you think? Are they done for good, or is there a chance they'll get back together?
Well, the Bollywood Shotties article actually suggests they might reconcile.
Really?
Yeah, but then again, their whole thing is speculation, right?
True. They love this kind of drama.
Exactly. So maybe take it with a grain of salt.
Right. So we have all this conflicting information, and it's up to us to decide what we believe.
Are we reading too much into these social media posts, or are they actually giving us real insight into how they're feeling?
Right. Are we getting a look behind the curtain?
It's such a fascinating question, and it really speaks to a larger issue. Like, how much can we actually know about someone's life based on what they share online?
In this age of perfectly curated Instagram feeds,
Yeah.
like how do we separate what's real from what's just a performance?
It's a tough one, and it makes you think about how much weight we should give to these big public declarations versus these smaller, almost contradictory messages they might send through their social media activity.
Yeah, it's a fascinating dilemma that I think we'll be unpacking more as we delve deeper into this whole story.
I think there's a lot more to uncover here.
Definitely. So stay tuned. We're just getting started.
So we were just talking about Malaika and Arjun maybe getting back together, even though Arjun said he was single.
Yeah. It does seem like they're sending mixed messages, right?
It does, but you brought up a good point about BollywoodShotties.com. They really love all this will they, won't they stuff.
Yeah, true. It's what gets people clicking.
Exactly. So while it's fun to get caught up in the rumors,
Hmm.
we have to think about, who's benefiting from all this speculation.
Right. What's their motivation?
Exactly. But okay, then there's Malaika's post,
Yeah.
the one about toxic people.
It's hard not to see that as a direct response to Arjun.
Yeah, I get that. But what if it's not about him at all?
How else could we interpret it?
Okay, well, think about the timing. November is kind of a time for reflection, like a pre-New Year's resolution.
Oh, yeah, like setting intentions.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So maybe this post is just about Malaika cutting out negativity more broadly, focusing on herself.
So instead of reacting to the breakup, it's about moving forward.
Right. A fresh start, a new chapter.
That's a really interesting way to look at it.
It shifts the focus, from romance to personal growth.
It does.
And it reminds us that celebrities go through these things too, self-reflection and all that.
They're human.
Exactly.
This whole situation is making me think a lot about like public image versus reality.
Oh, yeah.
How much of what we see is real and how much is just for the cameras?
Such a good question. And it's even more relevant now with social media.
Right. They're always crafting this online persona.
Totally.
Yeah.
So how do we know what's genuine?
It's like everyone's playing a role.
It's kind of a game, and we're trying to figure out who they really are.
It can be frustrating,
It is, because we get these glimpses, but we never really know the full story.
Speaking of behind the scenes, the article did highlight one part of the relationship that seemed very real.
Oh, you mean their support for each other?
Yeah, like when Malaika's father passed away.
Right. The way Arjun was there for her says a lot.
Yeah, it showed a deep connection that went beyond just the superficial stuff.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Which makes this whole breakup even more confusing.
Yeah, like if they were that strong together, what went wrong?
Well, relationships are always evolving.
That's true.
People change, circumstances change, and sometimes couples just grow apart.
It happens.
It does. And we might never really know why. It's their private life.
True. So where does this leave us? Are we any closer to understanding the truth about Malaika and Arjun?
I don't think there's a clear answer yet. We have all these conflicting pieces of information.
Cryptic messages, speculation galore.
It's a mystery,
We keep getting clues, but we don't know the ending.
and that's what keeps us hooked.
The intrigue, the unanswered questions.
Exactly.
But it's important to remember these are real people with real feelings.
Absolutely. We can get caught up in the gossip and forget that.
Yeah. So as much as we love this story, we have to be respectful.
I think that's a key takeaway here. Even with social media where it seems like everyone shares everything.
There are still mysteries.
Right. We can't always understand what's going on in someone else's life.
And sometimes the most interesting stories are the ones that leave us with more questions than answers.
That's a great point. I think that's a perfect segue into our next topic.
Okay, so we've talked about public perception, but what about the impact of social media?
Right. How has that shaped this whole narrative?
And how do Malaika and Arjun use it to manage their image? It really does. Social media adds a whole other layer to how we see these celebrity relationships.
Right. It's not just about the tabloids anymore.
No, it's like a direct line to their fans, to the public.
Exactly. They can control the narrative in a way that they couldn't before.
So in a situation like this, where there are so many rumors and conflicting reports, it's got to be even more important to manage that narrative.
Oh, for sure. Take Malaika's Instagram, for example.
The toxic people one.
It's vague on purpose, you know?
Oh, yeah. Definitely leaves it open to interpretation.
Right. So is it a jab at Arjun? Is she expressing her hurt, or is it more about, presenting a certain image?
Like she's moving on and growing.
Exactly. Even in a moment that seems vulnerable,
Yeah.
there's still that awareness of how it will be perceived.
Like every post is strategic.
Totally. It's fascinating, right? This whole dance between authenticity and performance.
Yeah. How much is real? How much is for the cameras?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it?
It's like they're always walking this tightrope.
Trying to balance their personal life with their public image.
And one wrong step could be a disaster.
Oh, for sure. Especially with a relationship like theirs that's been under such scrutiny from the beginning.
Every little thing is analyzed.
Every comment, it's wild.
I can't imagine living like that.
Must be so much pressure.
Totally. It makes you think about boundaries and privacy and how social media impacts all of that, you know?
Definitely raises some big questions.
So the article mentioned that they started dating back in 2018,
6 years. That's pretty impressive.
especially for a celebrity couple.
Shows a certain level of commitment, you know?
And resilience, especially with all the scrutiny they've faced.
Right. It makes you wonder what it takes to make a relationship last in the public eye.
It can't be easy, that's for sure.
All the pressure,
Yeah.
the lack of privacy, the judgment from strangers.
It's a lot.
And yet they seem to handle it so well.
They did. They really presented a united front.
There's that photo of them at the awards show, remember?
The one where they're laughing.
Yeah, it just felt so genuine,
It did amidst all the chaos.
which makes this whole thing even more intriguing.
Yeah.
Like what happened.
They seem to overcome so much together.
And now there's this uncertainty about their future.
As outsiders, we can only guess.
But it does raise these universal questions, about love and relationships.
What makes them work? What makes them fall apart?
Right. And how do you maintain a connection when the world is constantly trying to pull you in different directions?
It's like a reminder that even the most glamorous relationships have their struggles.
They're not immune to the ups and downs.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, what are the key takeaways you'd like our listener to remember?
Well, first, I think it's important to remember that we're only seeing a small part of the story.
Right, social media is just a glimpse.
A very carefully curated glimpse.
Mm.
The truth is probably much more complicated.
Absolutely. And second, I think this whole situation shows just how much pressure celebrities face when it comes to their personal lives.
It's intense.
Constant scrutiny, lack of privacy, this need to always manage their image.
It's a lot to deal with
And finally, I think it's a reminder that relationships are complicated.
for everyone.
Famous or not.
Love, heartbreak, the possibility of reconciliation. These are all universal experiences.
So true. Well, we may never know the full story of what happened between Malaika and Arjun, but hopefully this deep dive has given you some things to think about.
About celebrity culture, about social media, about relationships in general.
Definitely. And who knows, maybe we'll revisit this story in a few months and see what's
There
happened.
might be a whole new chapter by then.
Until then, stay curious and remember to take everything you see online with a grain of salt.
The truth is usually more complicated than it seems.
Well said. Thanks for joining me for this deep dive, everyone.
It was fun.
Until next time, keep those requests coming and we'll keep diving deep.